So today we are going to discuss some important properties of concrete. Uh, and to begin with, we have here two definitions of concrete. So first, concrete is defined as a stone-like material obtained by permitting a carefully proportioned mixture of cement, sand, and gravel or other aggregates and water to harden in forms of the shape and the dimensions of the desired structure. So the first definition is actually on the components of concrete as defined here by the ACI. And the second definition is more on the chemical aspect of describing concrete as a fine and coarse aggregate bound by paste from cement and water. So the paste hardens as a result of an exothermal chemical reaction between cement and water. So the focus of the second definition is on the reaction, which is exothermal, which means it releases heat as soon as the cement particles reacts with water. So for the types of concrete as a structural material, we have actually four types, uh, or rather three types. Okay, so these three types here are actually categorized under the structural concrete type. So for structural concrete, we normally use structural concrete for structural purposes, and we also have subtypes of structural concrete on the basis of the use and the function. So if we have a structural concrete without reinforcement, or the reinforcement is less than the minimum allowed as specified by the code, so you call it a plain concrete. So if there is a structural concrete with at least a minimum specified reinforcement, we have what you call the reinforced concrete. And for the third one is the pre-stressed concrete, when the structural concrete involves the introduction of an internal stress, okay, um, in order to reduce potential tensile stresses. So our focus on our subject is more on this. So this is actually uh, your subject CEP 363. Okay, so to understand better what concrete is all about, we have to define or enumerate the important properties of concrete. So the first property is based on the hardened concrete property. So the first one is strength, the second is durability, and permeability. So these three properties are actually um, related very much with one another in terms of their degree, no? Of influence on the concrete material. So for strength, we simply focus on the resistance. Okay, so when you're talking of strength, you're talking of how concrete material resists. Okay, for durability, we are talking more on the test against degradation Okay, and this involves the aspect of time. Okay, test against deterioration or degradation. So uh, we can also call it test against degradation. Okay, so the time factor involved is very much considered here. So for permeability, this is on the moisture resistance. Okay, so normally when your concrete is strong, so your concrete is strong, then your concrete uh, durability also is high. Okay, so when your concrete is strong, your permeability is low. Okay, so this is the a relationship between strength and durability. Okay, strength and durability, and this is also strength and permeability. So for fresh concrete properties, we have four important properties, characteristics. So we have the rate of strength development, the time of setting, workability, and heat liberation or heat liberated property. So for the rate of strength development, uh, this has something to do on the graph in which the strength has is measured in terms of time t. Okay, so some concrete have very fast uh, rate of strength, some may be low. Okay, uh, it could be in terms of early strength and uh, late strength. Okay, so early strength means your concrete gains your strength fast, and late strength means that your rate of strength development is low. So for the time of setting, this involves the period in which your concrete to attain its shape. Okay, so when the concrete has attained its shape, its form, then your concrete has is said to be uh, attained its time of setting. Okay, so but the time of setting is different. This is different from being hard. Okay, different from hardness, because hardness and time of setting are not at all related. So your concrete may have set, but it's not yet hard. Or maybe your concrete have set, but and at the same time it is already attain its hardness. Okay, so but they are not so much related on that regard. So workability now is the ability to be pumped. So this has something to do with the flowability. Okay, so when you say And this flowability is measured in terms of the slump test. Okay, so we want the concrete to be workable, but sometimes workability and strength are inversely proportional. Okay, so when concrete is workable, its strength drops. Okay, and vice versa. So for heat liberation, it has something to do with the release of heat. So when you mix water and cement, heat is released. Okay, that's why you have to see to it that your concrete proportion should not be causing too much heat to be released, because heat may cause, okay, temperature problems or temperature cracking. Okay, so for the properties variation, we can simply adjust the property by simply looking into the factors. So these are now the factors considered which influences the property. So we have number one, selection of type and quality of material. So this is type and quality of the uh, when you say material, we have aggregates, cement, and water. Okay, varying mix proportion. So this is what you have learned from your construction materials. So this is 1:2. Uh, okay, it's to 3, etc. So admixtures. So these are um, chemicals added. Okay, aside from the basic ingredients. So the basic methods of mixing, conveying, placing, and packing. So these are more on the procedures on number one, preparation and uh, casting and curing. Of course, the curing procedure here is already included on 4 and 5. Okay, so the last is the curing method. So for the definition of cement, we have it defined as a hydraulic product that are stable in water. Okay, so this is simply water. That's why concrete is very highly resistant to a very wet environment. And it's also defined as those chemicals that react with water to form water resistant products. Okay, so it's very stable when it comes to water reaction. Okay, for the types of Portland cement, we have the ordinary type 1, type 2 is moderate, type 3 is high early strength, type 4 is low heat of hydration, and type 5 is high sulfate resistance. Okay, so for ordinary, this is the used in general construction. So this was used, this is the most common. Okay, for the moderate type 2, moderate sulfate and moderate resistance uh, moderate sulfate resistance and moderate heat of hydration. So this is basically used on call it uncommon or concrete exposure to acidic environment. Okay, okay. So for high early strength, this has something to do with uh, fast reaction, meaning to say you want your concrete to set and harden very fast because of time uh, constraint. So you use a high early strength. So for low heat of hydration, you normally use this on massive construction, like dams, okay, dams, dikes, uh, what else? Large, large foundations, uh, airport runways. In short, when the concrete volume is very big, then you use a low heat of hydration type for Portland cement. For high sulfate resistance, so this is those which are contact, directly contact with uh, chemical uh, okay, so very acidic, so acidity is very high. Okay, so this causes your concrete to deteriorate too much, so you need a high sulfate resistant concrete. Okay, for Portland cement, we have it defined in terms of the hydraulic cement produced by pulverizing clinkers and consisting essentially of hydraulic calcium. So this is the main component of your Portland cement. Hydraulic calcium silicates, usually containing one or more forms of calcium sulfate and an interground addition. Okay, so the chemical composition, this is more on the chemical engineering or the BS Chem uh, language. So this is more on, okay. So what we need to just remember here are the aluminates and silicates. Okay, so these are the silicates and the aluminates. So silica is the basic component of cement, and aluminates are additions, and it makes it fast reacting. Okay, So yun lang ang tandaan nyo dyan, no? And then the rest are the basic components of cement. Okay, so I will end my first lecture at this point. So this is the first part of concrete property. We'll be continuing on cements and other blended types on the second part.